The solar industry is absolutely exploding right now. We're seeing projects go up faster than ever. But what if I told you that this entire boom is built on a tiny hidden flaw? A weakness that's baked into how pretty much every single solar project gets planned and paid for. I mean, really think about that. What if this whole multi-billion-dollar industry is basically running on a sophisticated guess? It's a wild thought, but that's exactly what we're going to unpack today. And it all comes down to this idea I'm calling the good enough paradox. See, in the solar world, if your energy forecast has an error rate under 5%, that's considered good. But hang on. When you're talking about a massive multi-million-dollar solar farm, a 5% error isn't just a rounding error. It's millions of dollars of financial risk just floating out there. So let's really dig into this good enough problem. We're going to find out what the real price of making a guess actually is. Okay, so the whole show is run by some really powerful simulation software. The big one is called PVSest. It's known as the industry workhorse. It's the tool that creates these energy forecasts that banks and investors rely on to sign the checks. But here's where it gets a little awkward. On the one hand, the industry standard says, hey, anything under 5% error is a win. But then you look at reality. One study looked at 4 years of data and found the actual average error was 5.4%. It's not just off, it's consistently off. And the problem is a tale as old as time. Garbage in, garbage out. A simulation, no matter how powerful it is only as good as the data you feed it. And a lot of that data comes from generalized sources, like satellite weather data from NASA, that just can't see what's happening right there on the ground. This brings us to the 4 big reasons these simulations get it wrong. Think of them as the 4 horsemen of inaccuracy. Let's break them down. The first horseman is honestly kind of shocking. It's just simple metadata error. We are talking about basic human mistakes, typos, and forgotten details in a project's most fundamental data. And get this, a major study from NREL looked at thousands of systems. They found that for supercritical info, like which way the panels are facing or their tilt angle, a whopping 30% of that data was just missing, gone. Only 64% was actually correct. That's insane. Now, why does that matter? Well, that same study found that if you make one simple mistake, like modeling the wrong type of mounting rack for the panels, you could throw off your energy forecast by over 20%. One typo could completely torpedo a project's entire financial model. Okay, horseman number 2 is microshading. Think about all the little things that a satellite can't see. A small air vent on a roof, a tree branch that grew over the summer, even a skinny power line casting a shadow. They seem small, but they cause big problems. And the impact is just totally out of proportion. Because of the way panels are wired together in a series, if you shade just 1 or 2% of a system's surface, you can knock out 30 to 50% of its power output. It's a massive, massive loss from a tiny shadow. Our third horseman has a fancy name, the albedo effect, but really it's just about how much light bounces off the ground. Most models just use a default value for something like grass, but the real world has sand, snow, water, asphalt, all of which reflect light very differently. This is a huge deal for bifacial panels, the ones that can soak up sun on both sides. One study of solar panels floating on water found they produced over 12% more energy in a year. That extra juice came entirely from light reflecting off the water. If your model ignores that, you're literally leaving free energy and money on the table. And our final horseman, soiling. It's exactly what it sounds like. Dust, dirt, pollen, bird droppings, all the gunk that builds up on a panel. It's different everywhere you go, yet models often just treat it as a single, fixed number. But in the real world, soiling can cut production by less than 2% in a rainy place, or it can be a devastating 35% lost in a dusty desert. If you use a generic number for a project in, say, Arizona, you're going to be wildly wrong about how much power it'll actually make. So with all these problems, how do we fix this? How do we close what some people call the confidence gap? Well, the answer is to stop guessing and start validating. And the solution here isn't just a new app or a better algorithm. It's a whole new step in the process, a totally new market category, an empirical validation layer. It's about making the simulation prove itself against the real world. And the process is actually beautifully simple. First, you take a sensor and you put it right on the project site for a little while. Second, that sensor measures everything: the real sunlight,
the soiling, the albedo, the whole shebang. And third, you use that real-world data to fix the long-term forecast.
You see what this does, right? It's a total paradigm shift. You go from a simulated guess that's based on generic data to a validated truth that is anchored by actual physical measurements taken right there on site. So, this new validation layer idea sounds promising, but where does it actually fit into the current market? Let's check out the competitive landscape. The market's already got a bunch of players tackling different parts of this. You've got remote software like Aurora Solar that's all about speed and scale. You've got drone companies like Scanifly that are amazing at mapping the physical layout. And then you have these high-end weather stations for big bank finance projects. This new approach slots right into the middle, focusing purely on the variables that produce energy. And this quote just hits the nail on the head. It positions the competition perfectly. You've got geometry validation from drones. They tell you the what and where. And then you have energy validation from on-site sensors. They tell you about the actual fuel for the system, the light itself. Which leaves us with one big question to chew on. As the solar industry just keeps getting bigger, is this kind of on-site ground truth the real key to making these investments safer and unlocking solar's true potential? Or is this confidence gap just always going to be part of the hidden cost of solar power?